Alright everyone, thanks for watching. I'm Chris, and I'm here with me as Brandon. Say hello.
What's going on, guys? Serious Dog here.
So today we're going to talk about our first review and I guess really our first impression slash review of the House of Wolves. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the story mode, the Prison of Elders, the Trials of Osiris, and then the gear such as the weapons and all that good stuff. So we're going to talk about the good and bad and what they could improve for each thing.
Cool. Alright, so let's go ahead and dive into the first one. What do you got first on the list, Chris?
Alright, so first off, we got the story mode. Alright, so starting with story mode. So, correct me if I'm wrong, but the story mode is Scolus, or as I like to call him, Scoliosis. He's being taken to the Nine, correct?
Yes, actually he's being traded to the Nine, or gifted to the Nine from the Queen. And that is when the Silent Fang, so to speak, actually kidnap him and break him out on the way there, and that basically starts your story.
Right, and as in the trailer and then the opening of the game when you first start it, obviously he goes to the reef and a bunch of the Queen's Guard are killed, and then the Queen posts a bounty to all Guardians saying, "Hey, everybody's welcome here, hunt down this guy." And so that's basically the start of the story. And I have to say, I really like the story mode. That actually is a story as compared to the original game in Crota. So it was really interesting. During the story, how many missions? Like, what, 6 missions, I believe? I don't remember.
Off the bat, I do believe there's like 6 to 8, somewhere in that ballpark. I have to go back and count them on my own. But like you were saying earlier, it is a big jump from the Crota story, because there was actually a story there.
Right, and as you play through the story, you actually encounter Scolus a few times, but he always is escaping, and he's trying to basically take over the other dread houses. Fallen houses, and finally, when you encounter him, is when you capture him. And you don't kill him, you capture him and send him off to the Prison of Elders, and then that's when you fight him on level 35.
So the way they really set it up, it was they set it up really well though, compared to it being like you were just noticing. Crota, we went to the campaign, we killed him like Erismorn wanted us to, and then next thing you know, you're fighting dude in a raid with 5 of your buddies. So it really didn't make sense, and in this playthrough, it was an actual story. There wasn't a whole lot of detail to it, but there was just enough to make it to where it was worthwhile.
Right, it was really intriguing too, because one mission you run up on a room full of fallen, and there's a hologram of the Traveler, and it's not really quite sure if they're worshipping it or if they're sitting there making battle plans or what the deal is, but that was a very interesting mission to do. You actually go to the King's Landing, not King's Landing, the
King's Watch. It was
King's
over
Watch.
in King's Watch.
Yes, it's
and
not Game of Thrones.
Yeah, exactly. Even though we're all big Game of Thrones fans here. One thing to kind of mention on that too is that I was reading through some of the Grimoire, and there's a Grimoire card in there that actually kind of gives you some backstory on why they're looking at the Traveler, and I think Bungie can really expand off of this just due to the fact that on the Grimoire it says that the Fallen look at the Traveler as a great machine, and it just so happens to be that the servitors that they worship, who give off ether seed and things like that to feed them, are also machines. So I think that Bungie could really wrap around somewhere with that and see what they can do with the Fallen to expand on that kind of story.
Right, it was overall I'd say it was a pretty good little story mode to it. Not very long, but not short either, like Crota, and actually had some depth to it. So there's not really too much bad I can really say about the story, actually. What about you?
No, not at all, really. Like, even though they reused some areas, and obviously they unlocked certain areas like King's Watch and the Citadel, the areas that they did reuse, they put more detail into them. They made them feel like they weren't just areas that you'd pass through one time like they did in the past. So I think that each overall map that they included the Fallen into, they really expanded and gave that area a more of a purpose.
Right. The only, I'd say, really the only, not really a bad thing, but more of an improvement, I would say, the category is, I really wish there was like one or two more cutscenes, especially when, as we were saying, like when you defeat Skolas, it really felt that should have been a cutscene because the Queen's ship comes down and basically beams him up from Star Trek and takes him back, and it really felt that that should have been a really cool like cutscene area. What I don't know whether it's because they were too lazy to do it or because they felt that it would break the immersion of one to always have the player in the game. But either way, a nice little cutscene would have been nice there. And one thing I was thinking of
I agree with that.
When you're playing the game, well, this new DLC would have been really cool if, since he's trying to take over the other fallen houses, it'd been pretty cool if there was a moment where basically you come across another fallen house and they're like, dude, Skolas is trying to take us over. We don't like you, you don't like us, but we'll team up for like this one mission to help stop him. Like have the final mission, you team up with other fallen houses to take down Skolas. I think that'd have been pretty awesome to have some kind of dynamic event like that happen. But
yeah,
I don't know,
that
maybe
definitely would have
Destiny
added
2.
more to the story. That definitely would have added some real depth to it. Because I mean, if Skolas was such a powerhouse, and yes, he did get defeated by the other houses, as said in the campaign, but
This fool thinks
obviously
he's a big
Varric
shot.
knew something that nobody else knew, that Skolas was going for
He is a
the
big shot.
Vex weapons, which
Shit.
would have made him a powerhouse. Which I think, in a sense, they should have given him that power to expand on the Fallen story.
Right, and yeah, the
Pick
very
the
last
first guy?
mission when you go to his
supposed
his
to.
base, if you will, he's on Venus and he's actually like tapping into the Vex teleporters, and Fallen are teleporting into the Vex teleporters. So it's a pretty interesting area, and it's like way up in the sky and everything. It's a very interesting battlefield.
Yeah, Bungie did a great job on that skybox. I mean, you guys used to see like earlier images, and you used to be able to glitch and climb into it, and now you don't see that as much, obviously. But from what they've did to what they've done now, it's a complete 180. It looks nothing like it used to, and it is an interesting area, especially with the whole adding Vault of Glass. What are those?
Oh yeah,
Those
you actually,
disappearing towers that you climb across.
Yeah, we didn't even mention that, but you actually go back to the Vault of Glass in one of the missions, which I thought was really awesome.
Oh yeah, and that's that's basically what we said earlier. Is it was more of like they reused areas, but they made the Vault of Glass not only part of a raid, but tied it into a story. Like, hey, there's important things going here. The Fallen are looking for something. But I think it's a solid at least 8 out of 10 on the story this time. If you were gonna rate Dark Below, oh my gosh, do I have to?
I don't know. Dark Below, I'd give like a 5 at most.
5 at most. I'll go 4.
Where to
But
next?
the replayability on it was absolutely terrible. It was a grind. It was more of a grind fest than when the game launched.
Right. That's I guess there's one thing we can go ahead and talk about is like they've totally just eliminated all the need for grinding. The only thing that you have to grind for now is the treasure keys for the Prison of Elders, which we'll talk about here in a second. So I guess we'll go move on to Prison of Elders if that's it for the story.
Yeah, that's fine. That's a good wrap up on that one. I think we've kind of covered everything that we really need to cover for the audience.
All right, yeah. So now Prison of Elders, like we were just saying, this new the House of Wolves totally eliminates all need for grinding for sort of ascendant materials and most everything else, which is a really nice thing. But like I said, the only thing you have to grind for now is the treasure keys for the Prison of Elders, which I feel like that's kind of out of place considering all the work they've done to eliminate that kind of thing. Instead of farming for keys on Earth, just sitting there for hours hoping to get one. One thing I was really hoping they could do is, fix is have Varric, which is the Prison of Elders fallen guy at the Reef, have him have like bounties or something, some way that he could give you treasure keys for doing something for him instead of having to just sit there on Earth and just farm for keys, which is, like I said, really out of place. But
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, that's definitely understandable. That's a total grind fest on that part too. And
Where?
reason
I
why
want it.
is like you
I want
said,
it.
I mean, having to go and farm, it does give patrols a purpose. But what it doesn't do is Bungie hasn't fixed the special ammo overload that everybody's seeing here lately. So I've actually ran into it a few times, and not only
I see
that,
this right here.
but with these treasure
Right here.
keys, you got to farm basically for hours and hours upon end to get anything from it, besides green and blue engrams.
And a lot of spin metal too, right? Like
Oh my gosh,
the past few times I've
Skywatch.
done it, the past few times I've done it, I've probably done it for. There's been times I've done it for like 3-4 hours and haven't got a single treasure key.
How the hell did you find all this?
So yeah, they definitely need to fix the treasure key
You on that
situation
Reddit train?
somehow.
That
But
Reddit train,
Yeah.
say the Prison of Elders though.
Gotcha.
The Prison of Elders, I thought it was really good. A raid still would have been nice, but Prison of Elders is a fine.
Almost 3,200.
I'm not sure if substitution be the right word, but it's plenty of fun. So there's 5 rounds, and each of those rounds has is it 3 or it's 3 rounds, right? Yeah, 3.
Basically 3 waves, 5 rounds.
Right.
Except for the level 35, obviously that's 6 rounds because you fight Skolas. But that's the only time you'll ever have the an actual 6th round. It goes in wave based.
Right, and each week they're kind of rotating some of the bosses, and as you get in the higher levels, you'll start to encounter 2 bosses instead of just the one, the final boss. Yeah, Prison of Elders is a lot of fun. You have a random chance of getting Cabal, which are motherfuckers. They're by far the hardest. Cabal, Hive, Vex, and Fallen, and each of their arenas are pretty neat and interesting.
Whoa, why are those wolf survivors immune?
Yeah, I don't think they made the arenas like too big, and I don't think they made them too small. They definitely put a lot of detail into them. One thing I will say though is that there's a lot of replayability with that, and you did kind of touch on the subject of them changing out bosses each week and changing up the perks and the burns and things like that as well. Which actually this week, on the 2nd week of House of Wolves, we've seen that Skolas is absolutely. I haven't defeated him yet, but he's absolutely horrific to beat this week. With an arc burn.
Right, if you're not aware, like the first week he was out, like people were beating him, which we beat him in like what 40 seconds. It was ridiculous.
Probably like 37.
I got you.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
I got you. Yeah.
But
it was solar burn then.
Right, we didn't. You kind of mentioned it, but I didn't say anything about it. But yeah, each
Where's this asshole? Why is it so big? What the
basically round you go into, you'll get either 1 or 2, depending on what level you're going in, perks or hindrances, depending. So it could be like arc damage, solar damage. You take more damage while in the air, vice versa. Any multitude of either things that could help you or hinder you, which is a nice little change of gameplay where you can't just do the same thing over and over for the most part, depending.
And yeah, and to elaborate on the change, really, from week 1, like we said, the Prison of Elders, you guys would just be, everybody'd go in, hammer a Galahorn, and you had solar burn, and if you had a Titan bubble, it was cake. But this week, I've played a little bit of it, and it has been an absolute nightmare. I've fought Skolas alone twice, and I've spent over 8 hours on just him, and still haven't defeated him. And it's just the change in the burn. You can't do the same plan that you did last week with a Titan bubble and Galahorns.
Yeah, but yeah, Galahorn's by far the easiest way to defeat most of the bosses, unless of course they have some sort of other like burn on them besides solar. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Like Triog.
Triog, the Cabal boss. His shields will actually change between arc, void, and solar, so you can't just. I mean, you can, but it won't be as effective as having a multitude of different elements of weapons to hit them. And Cabal
you
are
basically
definitely
kind of
no
need
joke.
everything. No, they were probably our most frustrating part, honestly. The shields, I wish Bungie would just make a weapon like they did with like the Oversoul Edict or the what was it? Is it the Song of Iryud or the heavy machine gun? I forget which one it is, but it shoots through those shields, the darkness shields that the knights put up. And I wish that Bungie would make like an armor-piercing weapon that could shoot at least one of them through those shields to make it just a little bit less frustrating.
Right. And once you complete all 5 or 6 waves, depending on what difficulty you're on, then when you go back to the center, the floor opens up, and there's a treasure room, which is a really cool little room full of gold and stuff. And you have 2 small chests, and then the big chest. The 2 small chests you can just open up freely, but the big one you need a treasure key to open up. And
that elusive treasure key.
I've gotten some pretty good drops from the big chest, and the little chest actually you can get some pretty good drops from them too. It's a lot harder to get, obviously, but you can still get good drops. And I've actually gotten treasure keys from the small chest. So.
Well, now that you mention it, the drops and things like that for the big chest, we did kind of just overlook this just for a second because it was recently confirmed that you do only get exotic ciphers for the 3 new exotic weapons in House of Wolves from the level 34 and 35 Prison of Elders as an RNG drop. So not every single time, but when you do that, like I said, once you get a hold of one, I believe it's 72 hours that Varix can let you know, like, hey, come back in 72 hours or sometime before then, and I might have your cipher ready so that you can get your weapon. But that is something new that they recently just confirmed, and it's only been seen on the 2 higher levels.
Right. So, I mean, that's, I don't know. I really can't think of anything bad about the Prison of Elders.
No, I don't think there's anything bad necessarily that you can say about it. I will say that if you played it this week, you will know frustration. If you've ever wanted to throw your controller through a television, it would be on the level 35 Arcburn Prison of Elders match this week. It is absolutely staggering. I've played it with over 12 people, rotating people in and out, and it's absolute frustration. But then again, Bungie told you that it was going to be a totally different experience, and you're not going to be able to do everything that you did last week that would make you successful. So I think it's a good change. It's definitely a good change of pace. I don't think it replaces a raid, but the replayability, like we were kind of talking about earlier, is through the roof. You can't get enough of the replayability.
Right.
All right. Well, what do we got next?
I really can't think of anything bad or improvements to it too much. Next will be Trials of Osiris. So good thing we actually kind of waited for that. But yeah, Trials of Osiris is the weekly sort of new Iron Banner, if you will, but much more hardcore. So basically, if you get you get a Trials passage, and if you get 9 wins without any losses, then you get to go to a new area. I haven't been there, but Brandon, you have. If you want to talk about the new social area, if you will, for getting the flawless 9 wins.
Yeah. So basically, after you get your flawless 9 wins on your Trials passage, so definitely make sure to pick up your consumables. Those do pay off when you enter the Trials. Obviously, you get that one tough team that could put you down. But getting back to what Mercury is really all about, they call it the Lighthouse. And with me being there, I know quite a few people got to go there, but the ones who didn't really missed out on a treat. It's basically a new social hub. I would say it's about the size, maybe a little bit bigger than the Reef. And basically you land outside, you go through a small cutscene of your guardian landing on the planet, and obviously the sun's like right there blinding you. So you walk through a few little tunnels and things like that. Obviously it's like places to where you could see like I said, a social hub, and it looks like there's going to be shops and different characters brought into the game, whether it be in a later expansion this year, hopefully in Comet come September, or in Destiny 2. But in the lighthouse, after you've kind of gone through this social area, at the very end, there is a chest that after you climb some stairs in what looks like is a lighthouse. It's all decked out, open windows. You can see the sun. Obviously, it's more Vex looking, like if you were just going to walk around on Venus. It has that characteristic to it. And after you go there, you open your chest for your 9 flawless wins, where you can get a weapon, just like any of the Trials of Osiris weapons, except they'll have a special burn on them, whether it be an arc, a solar, or a void. So that's the biggest things that I've seen out of it. Obviously, you get some etheric lights, some passage coins, just little stuff like that here and there. I definitely think it's worth going, because there are areas that they actually blocked off, and you can easily tell they blocked them off, because there's actually a big blue crystal looking wall, and when you walk towards it, it pushes you back, but you can see on the other side of where they were going to expand. That's really about it for the Mercury.
Yeah, and then if you see, that's a pretty cool thing, but obviously you don't have to get 9 wins to get cool loot. If you just get 8 wins without getting 3 losses, if you get 3 losses, you have to start over your Trials passage again. But if you get 8 wins, then you can get pretty much everything but Mercury. Like you can get the armor piece, the weapon, and then the several different packages, which tend to have decent loot in them. And I really like the gear so far for the the Trials of Osiris. Most of it's really cool. My favorite is definitely the Hunter Hawk helmet.
Oh, the Celestial Nighthawk. It is definitely
the Celestial Nighthawk. Some of the other exotic helmets, I'm not really too fond of them, but that's just my personal opinion. But for the most part, I really like the Trials of Osiris gear that you get from it, and the weapons so far are pretty cool too.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's anything. I do think the ram is a little out of place. It's a cool looking helmet, don't get me wrong, but just me being picky about it personally. And the Eternal Warrior. But let's start with the ram first. It doesn't look like it belongs like on a warlock, or it makes you stand like you're too tall. They don't. I don't know. If you look at it from the side and the back, it just doesn't blend very well with some of the warlock robes. And then the Eternal Warrior is I'm not really a fan of it, and I don't really see it being too much of a factor just by the perks that it has.
Right, so I guess while we're going move into gear, we'll keep talking about some of the other gear. Overall, the new Household expansion gear is much better. It's not just like reskins for the most part. There's actually some really cool and unique weapons, and one of the really interesting things you can do with a lot of your weapons is that you can actually go to the gunsmith and you can choose to re-roll them for a motive light and some glimmer and some other minuscule things, but you'll have plenty of modes of light playing this DLC. But so you can actually re-roll your weapons this time, your legendaries, and obviously you can either get better perks for it, or you can get worse, and then it'll actually also change the element damage for it too, which is really interesting. The only thing I would say I would like to improve on that is have like a list you can look at of like, hey, here's all the potential stats you can have for this weapon, so you can kind of know what you want to go for. Oh, that's just a small thing that would be nice to have, that a lot of like RPG kind of games have, like Diablo and stuff. But that'd be nice. But yeah, the new weapons and gear, the new re-rolling, it's really interesting stuff.
I would say, I mean, I think it brings more to the PvP side of Destiny. Reasons why, I mean, with you being able to re-roll anything, I would say anybody can have the same weapon, but it may not have the same perks. So I think this can favor in how you play as obviously as a player and whatnot, and to your style. So I do thank Bungie for doing that, because it does get tiresome to say, oh, well, you know what, everybody's using this gun. It has the same perks. It may have a different burn, but what does that matter in PvP? Right. Now it seems like re-rolling modes of light have another purpose. The gunsmith has a purpose for once in his life, which is great. The only thing I wish that they would really do, I think they could elaborate on that, is do it with gear.
Right.
You know, like legendary gear. Let's re-roll some legendary gear and see what perks and stuff we can get on that. Because, you know, not everybody uses a pulse rifle. Not everybody uses an auto rifle. And if I have a cool piece of arm gauntlet gear, and I'm like, you know, it's cool, but, you know, in PvP, I don't use that because it increases auto rifle reload and not pulse rifle reload. And I'm a pulse rifle guy. So I think they could carry it over to that as well into gear.
Right. Speaking of which, we forgot to mention in the Prison of Elders on the 32 and 34, you can get actually it's 32, 34, and 35. 32 will get you a weapon core, no armor core.
Oh yeah, yeah, we did kind of skip that.
34 will get you the weapon core, and then 35 will get you both. What these cores do is you can go to Varric's and you can trade him in for either the piece of armor and weapon he has that week, or if you turn in both, you can get a chance at a random weapon or armor, House of Wolves piece of gear, which is really interesting. So you have the factor of you can either get two things, or you can risk of getting one really good thing. So, in the House of Wolves weapons and armor, so far they've looked really good and are really good weapons.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that overall the gear looks a lot better. I wish that they wouldn't have kind of reset the gear from previous. I think they could then just add on top of that overall. But I have no complaints about gear whatsoever. And just to kind of elaborate on what you were saying about the armor core and weapon cores, that Judgment's Chance, which you get from Varric's if you trade both, yeah, you only get one piece, but I've actually had to pay off quite a few times. My Titan is completely decked out in Prison of Elders gear. Is it completely leveled? No, unfortunately, but he looks like she looks like a beast. And I have to say, the Titan helmet makes you look like Hellboy. I'm not even kidding. I'll link pictures if I have to. But definitely take the chance. I think that it'll pay off for you risk takers who like to gamble a little bit.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess that's about it. So I'd say overall this is a really good DLC. This is what the game should have been at launch. I'd say I'd give it a 9 out of 10. It was a really good DLC. I would say if it's worth getting if you enjoyed Destiny in the least bit, and you kind of got bored of it. I would definitely say check this out and give it another try because it's a game changer. Like all the grinding and stuff is gone, and it's definitely fixed most of the problems. And even the story, like I said, the House of Wolves story is actually pretty interesting. So it's got a little bit of a story now. So.
Yeah, I definitely.
Hopefully they'll keep it up.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they did an excellent job on it. Like you said earlier, this is what Destiny should have been from launch. So for all of you players that kind of got onto Destiny at first and was like, you know, this may just not be my thing anymore, or you've grinded your heart out and you got bored of the game, I will tell you that this is completely revamped Destiny. It's not the same game you played when the Dark Below happened. It is not the same game from launch either, obviously. But it fixed everything the Dark Below implemented. Took out a few things which I think should have stayed. But it's a solid piece, and I definitely recommend you guys getting back into it.
So would you say numerically your score would be?
I'd give it a 9 out of 10. As a DLC, I think it did a fantastic job.
Yeah, it's only, what, $15, $20? How much is it?
Right now, you can get it at Toys R Us, and I believe on Amazon as well, for about $15 to $20. I know that PlayStation Store, I think, has it for $30. And if you invested in that season pass in the very beginning, obviously it was a little bit much. And we were expecting a lot from the Dark Below, and we didn't get a whole lot from it, and it was a lot of disappointment. The House of Wolves made up for that big time. Bungie hit it right on its head. Like, you couldn't get a better DLC out of Destiny so far.
Right, it's definitely better than buying the Call of Duty map packs and
Oh
all that
my
stuff.
gosh,
It's the exact
yes.
same price. So yeah, good to get our seal of badassery, I guess. So
Yes, it will. The seal of badassery.
So
All
thanks
right,
for
well,
watching. Glad y'all stopped by, and be sure to subscribe and stay tuned.